Let me ask you about this bombing of a theater in Mariupol, where we are told that the Ukrainians clearly labeled it as a place where children were, yet still it was bombed. Are we looking at war crimes here?
I think this is something that's going to be investigated and treated in that way as an investigation. I don't think that we can't, to be technically legal for a second, we have to respect the process, but it's certainly a humanitarian disaster. It's unforgivable that the Russians would be placing children and their parents in such danger. They said it was a special military operation. The only thing special about it is that they're killing babies and they're killing young people. They're killing people who have nothing to do with just going about their business in the cities in which they're living. And it's a totally, not only a disgraceful operation, but obviously it is contrary to all the rules of war that have been defined since, ironically, the Crimean War in the 1850s. And it's just an outrage that the Russians would be continuing to do this. And they're not just doing it in Mariupol, they're doing it in the city of Kharkiv, where they virtually wiped completely destroyed the city. They're doing it in Kiev. They're now doing it in Western Ukraine as well as Eastern Ukraine. They're showing no regard at all for civilian life, none whatsoever. And this is contrary to all the rules of war. It's contrary to the law on crimes against humanity that's contained in what's called the Rome Statute, which has created the International Criminal Court, which is why the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court is investigating. And clearly, there was a lot of gathering of evidence that's happening all the time in Ukraine because we're living in the age of social media.
Yeah. Bob, if Putin cannot win, and certainly his initial goal has not been met, which was to overtake the government and install a puppet regime, according to the experts, now has he moved to, he wants to just completely and utterly wipe out as much of eastern Ukraine, if not the entire country, as possible, leaving behind ruined cities and towns and damaging crops and agriculture so it cannot easily recover.
Yes. That's what he did in Grozny. That's very clear. That's what he and the Syrian government have been doing in Syria. That's their strategy. It's not a new one. It's a terrible one. Surrounding cities and then bombarding the cities with heavy artillery and with bombs from the air. And that will only kill civilians and destroy infrastructure and buildings, schools, hospitals, universities, anything that's standing. And the people are, if they're able to survive, are forced to become refugees or displaced people in their own country. It's a truly disgusting tactic, which is also illegal. Yeah. And that's what I think the criminal court is going to be looking at. But the thing is, the court takes so long. The issue that we have to recognize is we have to stop him somehow, stop him from doing what he's doing. And that, I think, is an increasingly important imperative of public policy in NATO and in each of the member countries of NATO. All of us have to continue to do everything we can to get him to stop doing what he's doing, because it is a breach of every code of conduct.
And Mr. Rae, I'm almost out of time, but we heard him make an impassioned appeal yesterday to the U.S. We heard him speak to Germany today and telling them to do more. We know there will not be a no-fly zone at this point. So what more can be done? How much more leverage does the West have? How many more sanctions can they levy?
Well, there's still room for more sanctions, and I think everybody's looking at that. If you notice the media every day, there's new sanctions being imposed by different countries as they come on board or as we increase the level of our own sanctions here in Canada. There's also more weaponry to be supplied, and the Americans are taking up a lot of that, frankly, that slack, which needs to be filled. And I think there will be increasing capacity on the part of the Ukrainian army to respond. We're all trying to avoid an even wider and deeper war, but it's also clear that we have to do more to stop this escalation of the war by President Putin, and that's what we have to do.
Canada's ambassador to the United Nations, Bob Rae. Mr. Rae, thank you as always.
Thank you. Good to talk to you.
You too.